educator family, and let me welcome you to another Analysis Thursday. With me is your analysis individual, and that is Mr. Kenroy Smith. Today we're going to be looking directly at the Strategy Sunday that was just on Sunday, where we looked at the ADDIE model. And as outlined, the ADDIE model is designed specifically to assist educators as we plan for our online classroom, where definitely we're utilizing technology as a means of reaching the students. So Mr. Smith, let me welcome you to our platform. We had a wonderful time for the month of May. We delved into a lot of information, and our fellow educators, they have benefited richly. I think they liked your presence more than how they maybe liked mine with the analysis part of it. And I am truly grateful and thankful that you were able to join us. So we are wrapping up on our content, and the ADDIE model would have been the last, seeing that on Sunday coming, we're going to be focusing on teachers' experience. Now, your takeaway points, like you usually do, let's hear from you. How was it for you, this ADDIE model? What came about from it?
Right. Thank you so much for having me yet again. It's always a pleasure to be here. And yes, we're wrapping up, but I always wrap up with my notes. So let's go right into it. Right into it. The ADDIE model, I loved it. And I like the idea of implementing it with technology, given our new norm, so to speak. For those who might not know, then you know that the A stands for analyzing. And we will start right there and just jump into it quickly. I believe that as educators, as Miss and I were talking on a separate platform, that we need to first know our students before we can even begin teaching them. Because once you know them, then you'll understand how you can get the material across. So and for me, I know that for the first week of school and probably the first day, I would have invested time into getting to know them. And there are personality tests out there, there are learner tests out there. And guess what? Every day you learn something new. So don't feel like that you only will learn about your students in the first few days of school, but eventually you'll be able to understand them. So I really like that point. And I don't know if Miss have anything to add before I jump to the second pillar, but if you can go ahead, Miss, for analyzing.
Okay. Well, as I've always been saying to educators, it is important that we know who we are serving.
Right.
I always tend to use the analogy of the doctors. No matter how you have your family doctor, that this is the person who you have been going to from you were 15, 20, and you are 30, 40. Each time that they go for their booklet, they document what they saw, they do the little pressure test and these different things, because they need, each time you come before them, it has to be a reason that you're coming. What exactly are you coming for? And so they have to document. It is the same thing with us in the classroom. Each day, if we have our students 5 days for the week, for those who teach in the primary school setting or the early childhood setting, as opposed to those who teach in the high school setting, each time that they come to you, they are looking forward to something. What are you going to be giving to them when they come to you? And that is why it is important to know the learning styles, to know the socioeconomic background from which they come. Because when we go a little bit further, you're going to realize that if you want to utilize Google Classroom, or you want to give them YouTube videos to watch, you may very well have to scrap some amount of what you're giving them, because they may not have access to Wi-Fi. It's data that they're using. So there are so many things that you need to know about your learners in order to meet their needs. So that is it for me as it comes to the analysis. Let's hear the second stage.
Definitely, Miss, and beautiful point. So next we have design, and that is a beautiful word, especially if you're a construction person or an artist like myself. Before you can even start teaching, you have to first have a design, an idea of what am I going to be doing. Because remember, just like Miss said, like the doctor, you know that this is the person is ill, but how can I design a treatment method for them? So once you have a better understanding of your students, when you're planning your objectives, you would say, okay, I know my students are lacking in this area. So I want to plan towards targeting that area instead of just being all over the place. So how we design our lesson objectives, how we design the lesson overall, and regards to technology, how we design our time and even our instruments on the platform can very well be of importance. So that very briefly, that's what design means. And I know that Miss has a little to share on that as well.
Well, I will agree with you that the design part of it is coming over from your analysis. Know that you know that John Tom is a logical or a musical person. He's kinesthetic. What are you going to be doing for him when he comes to
Mhm.
the classroom? The design process is that the thought process. You're going to build a house. How are you going to build it? What are the features that you want to add to it? What is that special little tip that you want to have when your visitors come over? What is the wow about your design? And so it is with the lesson plan. When the students come to you, what are they coming to? What is it that's going to pique their interest? Where in it that you're going to have a part for them to take full responsibility? Because a lot of the times, as educators, we design the lesson and we think about ourselves, not thinking about the students. So the lesson becomes a teacher-centered approach rather
Right.
than it being a student-centered approach. So the design part is important. When I lectured at Teachers College, I usually say to my teachers when they're writing their lesson plans, think about you sitting in a classroom. Think about the students that you see. When
Mhm.
you write the introduction, do you get the aha moment? Can you see the student's face lighting up? If you're not seeing that happening, stop and start over, because
Right.
it means that life has to come in from the lesson plan. It's not when some teachers say, oh, I have good command of my class, good command, but they're not learning. Where's the peak? What is it that you're giving them to take away from it? So that the design part is very, very important.
Definitely agree, Miss. And I liked how you said the word, my keyword right there, the peak, because the very nature of the word of our next element, development or develop in the ADDIE model, it has to do with a peak. So at what point in the lesson are we actually learning? So what part of the lesson are we developing our skills? So your lesson cannot just be one level all the time. There has to be something that you're putting into the lesson and a point where they're building. You would have heard the term educator scaffolding in your studies. When are we building on the prior knowledge and
Yeah.
making sure that our students are exceeding? And trust me, to develop, I learned this from one of my lovely teachers in my department, Miss Tomlinson, and I had to apply it to myself that sometimes our students would want them to be fast and to get everything on the first go. But it is rather better to have a safe and slow and steady foundation than you're trying to rush everything and then you go too fast and they don't get anything in the end. And as a car, you go too fast, you crash. So you have to find that balance when you're developing your lessons to say, okay, what can I
Yes.
do to make this more interesting? As Miss said, what can I do to have that aha moment? Where can I tie in certain concepts along with certain information and make it still entertaining and all those good stuff? Because trust me, there's no boring topic out there in the world. It's just how we learn it and how we
Yes.
present the information. Right. So I don't know if Miss have anything to add to that before we move to implement or the
Well,
develop.
that would be because that sums it up nicely. The develop part, it is coming from each stage, adds to the, it's like stairs. You start at the
Right.
bottom and you keep going. So each one takes you to the level at which you need to go. So I agree with what you have said, and I just hope that as educators, you're listening to this conversation, this analysis, that you're able to plug. And remember, educators, um the context in which we speak, it may not necessarily relate to you, but what can you pull out of the context to meet your needs? So a part of it is that you're listening, you're hearing, it may not relate directly to what you're experiencing, but how could you make it relatable to your experience? That is the key that we want you to, the key point that we want you, the focus that we want you to have as we do our analysis week by week. So the next one would have been the implementation stage, which we call the action, the execution and the action stage. How do you see it playing out in the online setting?
Definitely, Miss. I feel as if some of our educators who might feel a little iffy about the online platform might shy away from the implementation because they say, boy, what can I give them to test and what do I do? But I'm here to tell you as a vivid look here, man, I love the technology, you know, even though sometimes I have my problems. I love it because it allows for such diversity in testing methods. So after we have known the students and after we would have taught the students, how can we test the students to know that they're learning? And the thing about the technology now is that we can take away the cost for printing, which was a major issue for some persons, especially as we talk about socioeconomic background. So now we can tell them to add all the pictures that they wanted to add, to find the videos, to do the creative stuff that they wanted to do from all along, but might not want to be able to print it and everything like that, and maybe to type up so many essays and so many words. Now they can do a video recording, and they can, and I was talking to Miss that there's this beautiful app named Canva that I am just a huge supporter of. And I hope one day they're sponsoring our video because trust me, man, Canva allows for you to do so many things. So I ask you, educators, when you're asking about implementing the different testing methods and the strategies, that you think about what was my goal, what was my objective. If I wanted to see them bake something, is there a baking app out there or some type of technology I can find to let me see something like that? Remember last week when we were talking about building the house and I would have seen Miss give me the demonstration. I know that there's a game out there that called Sims and Minecraft where they can build certain structures. Can we use those as alternative testing methods? Because trust me, no, it's not everything's going to be a test and a paper and grade like the old ways. We can still have that for our grading system, but we can be creative, man, in our homework, in our assessment. Can we give them a video to watch? Can we find a stuff that we take a message to use on social media? So trust me, man, think outside your box. And this is where collaboration would be important, where I would ask you to link your brains with other educators and say, come on, what are some of the testing methods you use and how can I implement them into my class?
Right. Yes. Yes, and a part of the implementation too is that, as you rightly say, we're taking the students out of the box that we have them in and giving them, allowing them to go out and to explore and to do and let them come back, because when you tell them, it doesn't stay, but when they actually do and they get actively involved in it, that is when it pops. It's a light bulb, that effect that you're creating in the brain, and so that tends to stay with them more. So the implementation stage is the nicest part of it, because you would have seen your work now coming out. You have seen your design coming out in what is being done in the classroom, and so it gives the students a great opportunity to grasp the content and the concept, and as the viewer and the facilitator, you're able to see it play out, and then you go into the evaluation right there, because your evaluation doesn't start at the end of the lesson. It begins when it is implementing. You are seeing how they react to the objectives, to the goals, the different activities being done, and that is now what sets the stage for you for the future. What will you do in the future? So what's the evaluation for you as we wrap up here with our ADDIE model analysis?
Well, definitely I always have my favorites, and I love the evaluate because, and I'm telling my teachers out there now, as an example myself, I am lacking in the evaluation part. But when I heard about
Yes.
everything that was presented, I said, no, man, I need to start evaluating my lessons, not just say, oh, they
Right.
learned something or oh, they passed the test, but how can I have a documentation to say that this is what I
Yes.
did last week, and based on these responses, I think I can use this lesson, or I think I need to repeat this lesson, or can I develop and build the blocks for a next level? Because if we have a
Yes.
good evaluation, then we can know what were the weak points of not just the lesson itself, but the students. Where did we lose them along the way? And guess what? In the online platform, I can safely say you have a record button, just like Zoom. You can rewind and go back to the class and say, okay, this is where John Brown face never did look so right, and this is where they took a little while to respond. And you can say, this was also what I was talking to Miss about earlier, that we can also evaluate ourselves. We can say, okay, where did I start to rush the content a little bit? Did I brush over a topic because it was not my favorite when I was in college or university? Or is there something about this topic and I've been spending too much time on it because it's my favorite topic? And definitely,
Yes.
because we can always feel free to improve, because I know that like Jamaicans, we don't like take certain bad comments, but guess what? Constructive criticism is the way to go
Yes.
forward. And nobody is better than you to evaluate yourself if you're just willing to be honest and open with the process. And once your students see that you could have said, okay, John Brown, I realized that last week you never really got the content.
Right.
So I'm going to try and go over it by mixing it with this. Then I know, man, they would definitely appreciate the effort. So please, and as Miss
Yes.
said, it doesn't happen at the
Awesome.
end of the class. Any little thing you can use to evaluate your lesson. It can be a question, it can be a little summary. Ask them to write 2 sentences. What did you learn today? And you can use those to add to your own journal entries that we would have discussed in our earlier weeks on this strategic lesson. So those are my thoughts
Yes.
on evaluation.
Okay. Awesome. Let me thank you so much, sir. I truly realize that you have loved you love this the ADDIE model based on your analysis and the points that you would have given just now. As we say that these models they were designed, some of them, the ADDIE model, however, was designed to be used in the US war, and so
Oh,
it has spilled over into the classroom. And this is what we need. We need to be strategic in our approach to teaching students. And so educators, we need to learn these models, get familiar. It's not a time now to share. We get familiar with them, see what you can pull out and what you can utilize to help you as you prepare our students for the future. They're going to become the future leaders. And so we have to do whatever we're doing right with them right now, so that when they get to that stage where they need to step over, they're ready and they're prepared, and we're not going to be in fear of what the future will hold, because we have done our best that we could while we were teaching these students. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us for the entire month of May. You gave us quality analysis points. The viewers loved and enjoyed them, and they were able to utilize them. And no doubt today was another exceptional one when we looked at the ADDIE model. Educators, I am Carla Boswell-Lewis, Director for Strategic Educational Consultancy Services. And I've always said, always, my only mission is to empower you educators to help us all to see how we can utilize the resources that we have to help the nation's children to become their best. Thank you so much for viewing. Thanks to the viewers who would have shared the link, and additional persons who subscribed. Thank you all, and I trust that you'll continue to share and like and subscribe also to the channel. On Sunday, we'll be looking at teachers' perspectives. How were their experiences like for the the month of May, or just generally the online platform, how have they been doing? And then in the month of June, we're looking at special needs, because, sir, you know that in some regular classrooms, we have special needs children. And, you know, as educators, we did not get to do in-depth content where that is concerned. And so we have a special line of educators who deal with special needs. They are trained in that area to deliver quality content to us for the month of June. So we look forward, educators, to that time. Until then, until Sunday, work good and be your best at everything that you do within the classrooms. Thank you again, sir, and all the best. Good.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.